We'll airdrop them.
Hi, everybody. How are you? I am Tracy Stuckrath, founder of Thrive Meetings and Events and the Eating at a Meeting podcast. And I'm here with Ruud Janssen. Yes. I said that correctly, right?
You did.
Awesome.
Almost,
Yay.
almost.
How do
Ruud.
Ruud.
Yeah,
so
the name doesn't travel very well.
No. Okay.
But the podcast can hear the name.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So we are here at IMEX day one. Literally, the show floor is opened up 15 minutes ago. So, and we're in his booth, which is, if you're here on the show floor, what's the booth number?
F729, right across from the Inspiration Hub. We're looking out into the Spirit of Detroit Theater.
Yep.
And we've got the workshop spaces around here. So at the very left far end.
Yes.
But this is the cool hangout, right? This is where all the education happens.
Exactly.
This is where we talk about event design. About this afternoon, we'll have you on our podcast.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We won't be live, but it's going to be there pretty soon.
That's
but
awesome.
Now we're live.
Now we're live. And actually, I'm over here at 10:30 giving a workshop myself. So
awesome. And Julius Solaris just dropped by. He's going to open the show at 9:30 with a DJ over there. We've got tons of stuff going on.
Is he? Oh, there he is, right over there. Right. Okay.
See?
All right.
So if you're not here, you're missing something.
You are missing something. It's kind of fun.
Next time.
And please let me know if you can't hear us, so that we know that you can't hear us and we can continue talking, but without you. But it says that we're live and we're talking. So what I wanted to do, so tell people what you do with the event canvas. And I took it 10 years. I did it with you 10 years ago, I think.
Mm-hmm,
so tell people what you do and what all these grids behind me mean.
Excellent. So one of the things that Ruud and I, who's over there in Sand, have been doing over the last, I would say, since launching this in Valentine's Day 2014. We launched the event canvas at MPI's World Education Conference in Minneapolis. And the reason we developed the event canvas was because the way that event creates value is not very clear to everyone all the time. And so we end up with a lot of events that are mediocre at best.
Mm-hmm.
Some events are fantastic and some events are really poor. And we want to try to figure out, what is the sheet music for events and how can you actually code and decode how an event creates value?
Mm-hmm.
The way we do that, the mechanism is fairly simple because it's all about behavior change, right? You come into an event in one way, you go away in another way, but it's different for different stakeholders.
Right.
And that's why we developed this mental model that you see parts of it here behind us. This is one of the projects that we did for Right to Play together with the IMEX group, in which you look at, who are the stakeholders for your event?
Mm-hmm.
Who holds a stake? Not the steak that we have medium rare, or whatever, but the stakeholder, like who has something that who has something to win or lose as a result of being part of this event.
Right.
And
that could include your attendees, your sponsors, your vendors.
People that might not be coming to your event,
right.
might want to make them part of this as well.
Right.
But what's really interesting is that what we always do is it's not one person designing, but it's a group of people. So it's a collaborative process. We like to use a group of 7 people, and we've developed a methodology called the event design using the event canvas methodology, which allows this group of people with little role cards to be facilitated through the process. You use the brain power, the prefrontal cortex that looks forward, right? If I do this, then that might be the likely reaction of that group of people.
Right.
And because 7 people have a much better predictive power than one person,
right,
you can now actually analyze the different stakeholders with empathy. So we use an empathy map to look at what do they see through the eyes? What do they think and feel? What do they hear through the ears? What are they saying and doing? What are their pains and gains before the event? And then what do you want their behavior to be after the event?
Right.
And then you have a delta between entry behavior and exit behavior.
Okay, that makes sense.
Once you have that for a stakeholder, you can then decode with 14 different boxes. You can decode how that event creates value. Okay. And the reason we do that is because at the end of the day, when a group of people has a predictive power and creates a story, a narrative about, for this stakeholder, we want that behavior change. For this stakeholder, we don't want that behavior change. For the third stakeholder, we want that behavior change. And you combine the stories of these 14 different cubicles. And the 14 cubicles are entry behavior, pains as you go into the event, and expectations. Before the event, you have an expectation. We're going to IMEX America. Here's what I'm expecting. Right. My pains are, I need to go fetch the coffee on the other end of the thing, because otherwise I won't be caffeinated for the day. Right. So my entry behavior is full of excitement. Here we are. You can see us in our entry behavior right now. Right. Because the camera and the mic can observe our behaviors, which is interesting. Yeah. Well, and when you come through, just using this show as an example, you come through and you're like,
oh my gosh, right? Where am I going? What am I doing? I mean, I don't know how many aisles are here. So many distractions. It's huge. And I went to the press room because that's where I thought the podcast booth was. And they're like, oh no, you need a Segway to get here, to get there, right? It is far. And you have to take that into consideration. But when you're designing an event like this, right? How do you do that? And how do you meet expectations through communication, and a variety of other ways.
But it's very different for different people.
Right, exactly.
If you're an exhibitor, you need to show up a day early. And yesterday was trucks and stuff going around.
Right.
Because you want to be ready on the first day of show.
Right.
And yesterday you have Smart Monday.
Right.
Which, by the way, was designed using this methodology.
Oh, awesome.
By Dale Hudson back in the 8th cohort that we had in 2016, I think it was. She designed what yesterday, what MPI does with IMEX,
right,
is actually a design that comes out of the thinking of very specific thinking of the different stakeholders, which takes into account, in this case, the event owner, MPI and IMEX, the participants could be MPI members and non-MPI members, participants to the trade show who might need to set up their trade booth but at the same time want to get some education.
Right.
There's all these events happening in the evening, so you can see that decoding even parts of an event or a specific thing, like you were saying, could I use it to like figure out the experience journey and instructional design of the food and beverage part of the event? You could isolate one thing and design just that part.
Yeah.
Right? Like that one string of the experience from maybe the exhibitor perspective. Maybe even the guys that set up the exhibit have a stake, right? If you don't feed them if you don't make the show an enjoyable experience for all the different stakeholders, something might fail.
Well, and on that note, I mean, I have a story of somebody told me a story of a guy passing out on one of the rigging things because he had an allergic reaction to shellfish that he didn't know.
Wow, exactly.
So that's
dangerous.
Yeah.
Super dangerous.
Super dangerous. So you have to take that into consideration. So when you're looking at this or thinking about, I'm sorry, everybody, I ran here and then I went to 3 different Starbucks to find my coffee.
Well, that's the coffee problem, right?
Coffee problem. Yeah, coffee tea.
Spaces are far.
No.
You can use the app and then have it delivered at the one, which I wasn't aware of because in Europe we're not that fancy.
I did
pick
the right one.
We can find good coffee at every corner of the
I picked the right one. When I went there, I went to the wrong one because I just made the assumption. Okay, so if you're looking at food and beverage, in pulling this out, I mean, you've got, you said it, the caterer, potentially, you've got the people you're feeding, and the people you're feeding could be your VIPs or your regular attendees, your staff, your vendors, how that happens. And then you've got different venues and that could be the load in, how are you loading in and what does that mean? And so I think that would be a really interesting event canvas for me to go through, because the other aspect of food and beverage that I think about and that I talk about, and I will be talking about it today at 10:30 under the session called Fickle Eaters, is, hey, there's Tyra Warner. Hi, how are you? You want to pop your head behind the podcast?
In the middle of the podcast.
Come on,
join us
for a second. Yeah. Hi.
Just
yeah. There you go.
Tyra.
Hi, there's Tyra. Hi.
How are you?
So this is what happens at IMEX America. People just walk by, we pull them into the podcast. Catch up very soon again, Tyra. Have a good
See you later. So I talk about dietary restrictions, right? A lot. It's pretty much my main focus. But so I say food allergies, medical conditions, religious beliefs, lifestyle preferences. And my last one is physical disabilities or disabilities.
Yeah.
Because think about the perspective of somebody in a wheelchair getting to a food function, right? And if it's on the beach or if it's in the back of the convention center or whatever it is, that's a whole nother perspective that you have to actually look at food and beverage from.
And I think part of the intentional design that you need to do, I was just speaking to Tahira this morning, Tahira Emdin, who wrote this book about intentional event design. It's really critical to think about all these different stakeholders and their experience journees, because then you come into all of these different touch points where you go, if we do this, what would that mean for this stakeholder? Looking through their lens only, very egocentrically, for a purpose, right? Because if you have a very specific kind of way that you move yourself through an event from A to Z, you need to think about all the steps they go through, because then you run literally into the what we then call the experience journey is the touch points,
right?
But at the bottom of this middle part of this event canvas, there's a kind of little time machine, right? The hourglass.
Yep. Because
time passes over an event. We're on day one. This is a 3-day event, right? And And as a result of doing something, you learn, right? So tomorrow, when you order the coffee, you will learn that, the right Starbucks to order from is that one, because yesterday I made the mistake. So by day 3, you're probably getting it right.
I know, exactly.
Now, event design, for me, is almost like a simulator, right? Where you simulate in your head, what does the trajectory look like for that specific person?
Right.
What are they going to run into at this function, at the opening, at registration, at this, at that? What's the experience going to be like to get from here to the gala evening, the awards thing? What's going to happen when they go to the race club for the rendezvous for MPI? What's going to happen with... And all of these steps you can articulate from their perspective and their basic human needs of having food and water and all the different things that we need at a specific time, but also the emotional needs, the emotional jobs to be done, the social jobs to be done, and the functional jobs to be done. Because that's why they come to the event.
Yeah.
Now, the event canvas delivers at the end of the day a promise.
Okay.
Every event delivers a promise, right?
Yeah. You're going to learn, you're going to network, you're going to...
It's a gift you open, like Tracy brought this little tangerine for me.
And
it actually matches my water bottle.
Oh, nice.
Right? And I'm from the Netherlands, and orange is our national color.
Yes, it is.
When you play
you got to go to the booth,
so, I don't know if you did this by intention.
I did not.
And you wore an orange shirt, right? So it almost feels like I could think that this is like designed by Tracy to make me feel welcome in Las Vegas.
Right? Yeah.
And maybe it's not. Maybe it's pure coincidence. But it's those very little touch points that might be subliminal or very like in your face. Even your water bottle is orange.
It is, yeah.
Like
it is, yeah.
Is that a coincidence or is it just the way it is?
It just, well, yeah, kind of. Just the way it is.
Anyway, so those are the little smiles in the mind that we like to call when we talk about event design. If you think on behalf of people forward for their needs and to eliminate pains, to create gains, to optimize the way they spend their time, right? Because you could make it time well saved, right? Which is going to the Starbucks and ordering it on the app. Might be time well saved, so you don't have to wait in line there.
Right.
But to me, that's still just delivering a service in a faster way.
Right.
Because the frustration there is, I need caffeine, but I don't want to go to the caffeine. It's amazing how we're always amazed. My colleague Gold and I were talking about it yesterday, how this massive country you have here is conditioned into a coffee behavior that's very different from the rest of the planet.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know how I did it, but there's a lot to be learned from that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody has their order. There's even way to order your coffee.
Right.
That in the rest of the planet doesn't exist. Or those people that also like Starbucks. Like my kids like to go to Starbucks.
Right.
I like to go to my little Italian coffee place, right? Where I know the guy, he already knows what I need. I don't need to tell him through an app because he knows I'm going to be there at 10 o'clock. And he has my coffee ready. So,
that's awesome.
So it's almost like,
and that's a personalization thing. And that's what, and it came out a couple of years ago. Things need to be a lot more personalized. And how can you do that with food and beverage? And especially now with dietary restrictions and stuff, you want to make it personalized no matter what, but you also need to feed the masses at the same time.
Well, you have a large country, right?
Yes.
So as an example, I live in Switzerland. There's only 8 million of us.
Okay.
That's smaller than the size of Rhode Island, right? So do you need that scale or not? And I think this is where events need to think as well. The bigger your event, the more you need to think about each of these experiences. Because if you get something wrong, your bandwidth for getting it right or wrong can have pretty impactful effects on the outcome of your event. And I think even for small events, designing it in a very bespoke manner is very relevant, right?
Right.
You need to think about these things. And Karina Bauer is coming by. See, she's inspecting all the different things. Karina Bauer is the CEO of IMEX. And we've got all the people that are kind of opening up the show, right? This is always very interesting to see the behaviors of all the different people. Yep.
This is the IMEX group taking social media things or pictures or whatever. Yep. And Karina is over there. And you want to pop in on our podcast?
We're having a live podcast here.
Yeah. Both.
Good to see you.
Yeah. How are you, Karina?
Thank you.
Come on, pop in here.
Right.
Yeah. So there you go.
Hello.
So how was your walkthrough this morning?
Yeah, great actually. I just spent last half hour just walking through. So
good.
Everything's looking good.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's a huge show. It's
it
beautiful.
Is a huge show.
It's beautiful. How many people are we expecting?
A good number. We'll see. We'll see on Thursday. But yeah.
Okay. But you have 3,000 exhibitors. Is that the number?
3,300 exhibiting companies. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
So yeah, it's big. And I think, people, I was talking to somebody, people last year did what they could do.
Right.
But this year everybody's, with that certainty and planning, they've
Right.
been able to really build amazing
That's awesome.
foods and activations, and
Right.
that's what's really nice to see. It's quite interactive.
Good,
So,
good. Yeah, I'm excited. I ran down here, did this, and so I get to go walk next.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
Very
should.
good.
you
Yes.
should.
All right.
I saw
Well-
they even had an official opening. Julius is just preparing there with a
Yes,
DJ,
exactly.
which
Well,
she
that's why
tweeted
I'm
last
here.
week. Which she tweeted
Yeah.
last week. It's like, and now it's here.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
funny to see like social media coming to life in
Yes.
a live setting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
totally. That's a really good example.
Yeah.
I love
and
that.
you can do simple things quickly, can't you?
You can. Yeah.
If
Maybe-
people are willing.
Providing you have all of the other stuff sorted out. And this is why
Absolutely. Yes.
you
yes.
treat your exhibitors like royalty,
Yes.
and we feel very welcome.
Oh,
and I
thank
think this
you.
is
Good.
something that the team does extremely well, and it's not by coincidence, right?
No, absolutely.
design.
That's by design.
Yeah.
Absolutely, very much so.
Well,
thank
very
you for
good.
that.
Well, thank you for stopping by
We
for a
won't
quick
keep
Yeah,
you
you're
second.
because
welcome.
you have a lot
Yes.
of things to do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karina.
This is what happens at IMEX. You get people popping up
You
from
do.
left and right. That's
And
fun, right?
and she was in
Marie
my session
France.
yesterday
Exactly.
at the Skips meeting. Yes.
Marie France. We're live on the podcast.
We're live on the
We have-
podcast.
We have different people coming into the podcast. Here we go.
Hello. Good. How are you?
You guys were in
Actually,
the Skift session yesterday.
we were in the
meetings.
Skips session yesterday, and the last table talk was about career changes.
Yes.
And it was interesting that one woman came because she's a business owner, and she was interested in finding out how she can recruit new people to work for her in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, which is a tiny town,
Okay.
Yeah.
and not expect $120,000 salary,
Yep.
which is what she's getting people requesting. And so we helped her walk through some ideas of what to do. And another woman had just quit her job last week and was here to see where she wanted to go.
Well, I think she called it quiet starting.
Yes, I
Right.
like
People
that.
taking a step back, not getting away from that director role. They just want to go
Right.
back to what they love, running or whatever.
Exactly.
They love.
Yeah, because even during the pandemic, when I needed to earn some money, I went to a small event planning company in my town of 30,000, and she wouldn't even talk to me because she said, "You've got too much experience, and you're going to leave as soon as I train you, and I have to train somebody else." I'm like, "Okay, but you need the help right now because you're
How do you do
drowning."
that?
Yeah, and hey, I can stay on as long as you want. I don't care if I'm only getting $10 an hour.
Yeah.
At this point, I need to.
Well,
Pay
we've
for
all
some-
reprioritized, right?
Right,
Things are
yeah.
much clearer for
Yeah.
people what they want to do and what they want to spend their time doing.
Exactly.
So what behavior changes have you seen from that? I mean, just yesterday, I tried to observe like the Innovation Meeting Lab. I think it was
Right.
Miguel Neves
Yeah.
set that up with his team.
Hmm.
I enjoyed that because there was like different topics based on
Yes.
research, but also like it's quite open
Right.
in the structure of conversation. You had some event design or some event scientists, as he called them,
And I was one
there,
of those. Yeah.
and you were one of
Mhm.
those.
Yeah.
Now is this really a
Okay, so we're back. Somehow something went wrong, and now we're back. So
also something went right? Because look,
exactly, you got your Starbucks.
Somehow.
Yes, and I already drank mine. Mine's gone.
Do you like
but-
cappuccino? I will offer you
No,
one.
see, I just do tea.
Ah,
I don't
just do
drink
tea.
coffee.
Ah,
Yeah, I don't do coffee.
there's a reason for that.
But
No
there's
doubt.
a whole nother design element too. It's like, what do you? So many things, so many coffee urns at hotels taste like coffee, even though you're only getting the hot water from the
Putting tea in
tea.
it. I'll tell you a story about that.
Yeah.
My very first real like event experience, like at scale,
Right.
was actually my management traineeship in Amsterdam, and It was a collaborative effort between 17 hotels that were doing a fundraising dinner for the International AIDS Society.
Okay.
And it was held because the International AIDS Conference was brought to Amsterdam a week out from having originally taken place, or was supposed to take place in Boston.
Okay.
But the topic and the promise of the event was actually to promote and to get in place a buddy system for people that had AIDS as an illness.
Oh, wow.
And one of the restrictions of coming into the U.S. was that if you picked the box on the field that you have AIDS or have been in contact with, you would not be allowed entry into the country. And so
kind of like COVID.
The Dutch convention bureau at the time, remember, Pierre Bosser, went to the organizers and to the owner of the event and said, how can you work on this promise whilst doing that in a country that opposes the very promise of what this is supposed to do?
Right.
And that was his crowbar to bring the conference a year out to Amsterdam.
Wow.
And he moved the conference from Boston to Amsterdam within a year. It only takes 3 to 4 year plan. It's a big event, 18,000 people at the time.
Right.
Now the event is like, I think 30,000 plus.
Wow.
But what's very interesting is that the supply chain, so the hoteliers in Amsterdam, in return, wanted to do something back to generate funds for the AIDS fund.
Right.
So they organized this dinner on Dam Square, right in front of the Royal Palace. Like this crazy idea by a couple of hoteliers said, let's do this, bring 17 competitors together, do this the fundraising dinner. I was the trainee that had to manage this thing, and they were all volunteers doing this. And it was like an incredible experience because you had 1,000 people coming for dinner in a public square without facilities. And we were doing part of the catering from the KLM catering kitchens at Schiphol. And we were doing some of the catering from the Krasnopolski Hotel across the street.
Okay.
The appetizer, or the first dish, was a gazpacho, cold soup, as you know, which has cucumbers and all sorts of ingredients. It's very fresh. But with all the stuff that we ordered, and we had everything sorted because it was like off-site, really. We didn't have kitchens and stuff, so it was all like designed to have just giving out the food. Well, what we forgot was to order or to actually have a way to put the gazpacho in the deep plates before they were being brought into the room.
Oh, wow.
So somebody had the bright idea to say, you know what, we could go to the Krasnopolski Hotel and run really quickly and get the coffee jugs. Right. We could put the soup in there, and then we could put it into the...
That's brilliant, yeah.
Yet, if you think about something I didn't know either, in hindsight, we also had all the checkpoints from the health and safety services. And they did food samples at all different stations to make sure that if something went wrong, you could track back what happened. Right. What I didn't know is that the interaction of coffee rests in these coffee jugs, with raw soup, with those vegetables, can contaminate that to a degree where people can get ill from it.
Wow.
So these are small things you do not think about.
Right. Nor
the logistics.
Right.
We could have poisoned 1,000 people if we hadn't thought of that, or if that did not go as planned. Right. So, and all depends on the temperature of the soup at that time. And how much of the coffee is left in that jug. So that reminded me of what you said.
That's
coffee urns,
crazy. And would a chef even know that?
I don't think a chef would know, but in hindsight, the microbiologists who were looking at doing the food sample tests actually determined that for that particular dish there was a heightened potential of contamination.
Well, and we don't have health inspectors that come to our events to test those things out, right? No. Oh no.
So in some countries it's mandatory.
Right. Wow. Because you have a health inspector that comes to us venue to test their stuff. But go ahead.
At the same time, I'm going to have that first sip feeling because I haven't taken a sip yet.
Oh, cool. Take a sip.
It's I'm reading it whilst I'm doing it. Let us add a little joy to your day, right?
Nice.
After you've run back and forth with your coffee, mine is brought to me. My experience is very different.
Your experience is very different than mine. Yes. Okay. Have a cup. So I'm hoping everybody stayed on with us while we're here, but it doesn't look like there's anybody watching live, but that's okay. We're still chatting about this, but. So that's just adding a whole nother level to this event canvas experience, right? Because you've also got your servers, and sometimes you don't even think about your servers when you're designing your food and beverage. You just design the food and beverage, and you don't think about that execution of it, or what the experience that server's going to have when executing the experience. Right, exactly.
As a result of that, right?
Right. Yep.
All the decisions impact each other.
Right, they do. Yep.
And we have to think about, and this is where the user interface, if you look behind us, you'll see different colors, right?
Right.
So each of the colors is color coded. So the first one could be the event owner, the participant, it could be a sponsor, it could be the caterer.
Right.
And you have to think of all these trajectories and think about what happens before the event, at the beginning of the event, in the middle of the event, at the end of the event, after the event. And what are all the instructional designs? What skills, knowledge, attitude, and people learning needs to happen in that trajectory to really get it right? And I think not leaving things to chance when it comes to event design is what event design does. Right? It takes a big idea, breaks it down into a potential series of prototypes. And then once you have a prototype, you can say, this is the one we really like. And then you start working on the nitty-gritty through the perspective of these respective stakeholders.
And it's kind of a what-if scenario kind of thing, too. Yeah.
It's forward thinking, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so with this dinner, 1,000 people are going to come on Dam Square. It's in the Netherlands, it might rain. Right. You have trams going back and forth, so you need to stop that system before they run through the tent. They decided to put a tent on it. They didn't know that the square in front of the Royal Palace is actually a national monument, so you cannot just put something on it. You need to get all the permits and all that. You know what the good news is?
What?
This year, just last month, the 30th edition of this event took place. It's still happening every single year.
For 30 years.
And that event design is epic.
Wow, I want to come see that event.
So it's the Amsterdam Foundation. It's called Amsterdam Dinner, Amsterdam Diner.
Okay.
And I think it's one of the epic fundraising events. It might have actually inspired me to develop this together with Pool at some point. Because I saw the power of, these were hoteliers washing the dishes, like the general managers washing the dishes, and the stewards normally washing the dishes were running the show. It's all volunteers.
Wow.
These 17 competitors worked together to create this dinner. And the party, the feeling after that, the volunteer work, the power in that, that purpose, the emotional jobs done, the social jobs done, of that event that brought the whole city closer. That was the gelling factor between 70 competitors who were very competitive. To be much better collaborators when it came to the point of changing things.
That's awesome, because it does take, and when you're doing a citywide event, right, and you're doing offshoot events at different venues, you still have to collaborate with the off-site catering companies or the off-site event producers, with those ones that are on-site as well, right? But it reminds me of, and now it just escaped me what you reminded me of. But it does elicit the need for overall general collaboration with everybody to do the right thing. Yesterday, I was trying to get to a dinner last night, and it's kind of a little bit tangent of this, but I was using the Lyft app, and when I was saying I'm here, I wanted to leave the Shark Reef area, it would only let me say that I could leave from the Mandalay Bay.
Because I have a perimeter where people can't pick you up.
Right.
And I'm like, what the reason is for
why?
That? I just learned this morning that unless you have we call it an ADA certification, or then that passenger can actually travel inside that perimeter.
Right.
But the taxi companies actually pay a fee for being able to drop off people here.
Right.
And Uber doesn't do that. And for this show, they created a special perimeter within that. It's a business thing. It's a business decision.
It made me so mad. I ended up walking all the way to the Paris hotel for that.
So here you go. So the experience journey is an integration of the service agreement levels and the protocols of all sorts of people in the supply chain.
Right.
And you got to figure that out, because you can put on the most fantastic show, and you can have, with the behavior of people now using Uber versus using taxis 20 years ago. 10 years ago even maybe, means that's a frustration at the beginning of the event. And every day they leave and come back.
Well, and there's a big sign out there that says Uber and Lyft and taxi ride, and there was one taxi there. So the taxis don't even know to go out there, right? And
so this shows that, or to me, what it shows how important it is to design for all of these different things. Because the Uber driver know that there is, I don't know how many thousands of people here at IMEX that at the end of the day need to go away. If they only learn that on day 2 or day 3, and in Vegas they're lucky because it hardly ever rains. But I remember one of the show in Barcelona where the transport wasn't sorted out on day 1, and it rained cats and dogs, and that was like put a very bad mark on that event. So you can get everything right inside, but if the journey between the hotel and
if you haven't made an ulterior plan, exactly.
I think this is the whole point of how do you, and I think food and beverage to me is like a basic need for people. Right?
It is.
If you don't think of that carefully, people go hungry. I'm like that. I'm a really nice person, but if you don't feed me on time, I become nasty.
Yeah. Oh, me too. And then I got there, and then in front of me they had pre-ordered food, and it was all different variety of food allergies that in one big plate. And the menu wasn't labeled, so I couldn't decide what I wanted to order. And I was late, so I didn't want to spend the time later trying to figure out what I wanted to order, especially when it was not labeled. That's my bane of existence is labeling. So, all right.
Well, to me, like that is very important because I was just citing the example before. My sponsor was just on the podcast, hosts our training, our event design certificate level 3 training at Concordia University. Right? Again, food and beverage can also be used as a branding device.
Right. Yep.
We use it. We add our stickers. I carry it around.
Oh, I love that you have a sticker.
But what's interesting is that she was trying out. So we tell. She's a certified event designer. We hosted the program a couple of times. She was trying out a new vendor because she knows with us we're happy to prototype this stuff. And the food labeling was not as she had expected it to be.
Right. Most of the time,
on day one, there was tweaking on that happening. On day 2, it was improved. On day 3, it was the way. So you also need groups of people that are willing to be your guinea pigs or your people that are willing to take a little bit more risk. Because at the end of the day, this is a big risk thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, huge risk. Yeah. Yep.
At scale, this was a small group, 24 people. Get it wrong with a group like this.
Right.
Last night we had the Events Industry Council, inaugurational awards.
Right.
Cheese platters. Having them, in the room is great. If you're really hungry, you might have a couple of different cheeses, but are all the cheeses labeled?
Right.
Right. Do we know
what
kind of cheese it is? And like, if you want to make it look fancy, and you have like stickers all over it, or how do you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think this is where the creativity of design. So what I really like, it just popped in my head as you were saying this. What I really like, and we want to do this more. At a conference, so I was invited yesterday because Christoph Seluk was inducted into the Hall of Leaders. He hosted an event in Krakow, and the DMC that did that event at the brand new ICE Convention Center there at the time, I think it's 2017 if I'm not mistaken, 16 or 17. They actually put paper on all of the buffet.
Oh,
desks.
I love that! I have a picture of that.
And then
they wrote on it,
like where the cup was. They would have a circle around and said, "This is this, and these are the dietary restrictions," and it became a very creative thing that people actually use in this, right? Brown paper sessions.
Yep.
And that's what we actually ended up doing in Montreal as well. If the labels are not apparent, you can actually create it on the spot as well.
Right.
But you need to make sure that it has a function and a purpose. And it actually ended up being a very interesting concept because people started adding to it that this is very good, or I really like this taste, or the taste of blueberry, or this is like try this because it's pierogies, but you can have it with this if you have that allergy, or like the condiments. So it became almost like a living menu thing, right?
I've got a picture of it so I can show everybody. I swear to God, I have a picture of it. I use it in my slide presentations when I'm training. Oh, I don't have it on my phone.
Is it from that event? From the MPI event?
It was from WEC or from
EMEC.
EMEC, yep.
So that was Aga who was there. She as a DMC came up with that idea.
I love that
was
idea.
The host, right?
Yeah.
This is where we first did our level 1 training in Europe, right?
Oh wow.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And we had a number of clients, interestingly enough, who were at that event, but then decided to go and design their event this way,
right? Because
they wanted to consciously think about the design of the event. So you can interconnect everything and anything, but food to me is the biggest conduit besides time. So time and food are the things that we have.
Yep.
The 2 biggest emotions on the planet, do you know what they are?
No. What are they?
Love and regret.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm just reading a book on regret. So you could regret not labeling your food.
Right.
Now, people love their food or hate their food.
Yep.
They have a very strong emotion connected to food.
And they could, and if I came to an event and the food wasn't labeled, then I could regret coming to that event.
Exactly. There's 4 types of regret. So it's very interesting to use this in practice.
Yep.
And to figure out what it means. There's a book that just came out, The Power of Regret by Dan Pink. I'm reading it. Highly recommend it.
Okay.
I'm only 3/4 in, but I love it already.
Okay.
He did about regret across I think the US powers music, I guess.
Right.
A lot of the music that comes out is driven by that.
Yep.
And I think regret is a very underused thing because everybody says have no regrets, but you know what? You should use regrets as
Yeah.
a tool, right?
Yeah.
Regrets are very powerful.
I like that, and I'm gonna use that in food and beverage training, because will you regret doing this because you didn't do that, right? Or vice versa. Or will somebody regret coming to your event, like I said, because they couldn't eat, right? Or spend the money. And if it's a foundation, it's a fundraiser, and they go to that and they can't eat, hey, do I regret giving my money to this organization? Because even though it's about AIDS or whatever it is, I'm giving my money to that. But they don't care about me as a
And what
designer.
makes you come back 30 years
Right,
in a row?
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
What
Yep.
made them invite us as trainees
Yep.
in the 10th edition? Because they
Yep.
knew we had grown from poor students
Right.
to early professionals
Yep.
to maybe later professionals who now become people that can contribute to the cause. Right?
Exactly.
So people
Yeah.
change over time as well, and you have to include that in your event design. When people become loyal to what you do,
Right.
you can do some pretty powerful stuff.
That's very
Right?
cool.
And
All
I think
right.
that is super critical.
It is super critical.
Okay,
Gonzalo, what you need to come? What are you doing?
Gonzalo, come
talk
come
to
into the
us.
podcast for a second.
Yes.
We're live on the
We're
podcast.
live on the podcast.
So Gonzalo Parro. Gonzalo, if you could stand here in the middle for a second.
Yeah.
People can see you. So Gonzalo here is from Lima, Peru. And Tracy Stuckman. There's a podcast about every guest matters, every meal matters. So food, I'm sure you agree. I mean, Peru. I wasn't complimenting your culinary muscle, but Lima, Peru, or Peru as a country, has fantastic food.
Yeah.
Yes. How important is food, do you think, to
Yeah.
events that you go to?
The ones I go to is very important. As now I'm looking for cookies and coffee this morning,
Yeah.
and I am not finding them. So
So it
will
turns
be-
into a basic need.
yes, it's a basic need. It's a basic need. So and then it comes for
That
sit
first
in.
sit feeling.
Yes,
Right?
Yeah.
then it's important for the experience. Sometimes in events we are more than 2 or 3 or 4 hours, and it happens to be that is time for us to have something to eat.
Right.
So it's essential, but it's also part of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to always, as event designers, we have to know how are the assistants going to feel the moment that they need something to eat as their normal life, or as part of the experience you want to feel in the event.
Right.
So that also the food, as Ruud was mentioning, is in Peru is very now important, because they expect something that is very special.
Right.
So-
Surprise and delight.
Yes, you cannot put only food for a satisfaction of your primary need.
Right.
So
Well, the French have a saying. It's called "La nourriture est la base de la vie," right? Food or nourishment is the basis of life. Like in a petri dish, right?
Right.
If there's no grounding, if there's no starting point, things cannot grow.
Right.
And I think events are about growth, about behavior change.
yes,
And if you cannot grow, if you cannot nourish the crowd with food and beverage, but also with knowledge, also with attention, right, with care, then it will not grow.
Right.
And I think this is something that IMEX does really, really well. I think what you see here is that the team at IMEX is a family business, and they deeply care about this community.
Right.
And you can feel that when you're here at this trade show, right? Ray Bloom, he was just over there, right? He's the owner of the show. He's Carina Bauer's father, right? He thanks all of the exhibitors at the end of the day at the bottom of the escalator, and personally thanks them and participants for coming to the show, right?
Right.
It's not food, but it's nourishment for the soul.
Right.
It
Yeah.
ties you over to next year to say, I might have spent an obscene amount of money here this week in Las Vegas, and I might have a very good feeling about the potential business I might be doing as a result of being here. But that cognitive dissonance that you might have in your head is then replenished by the fact that he thanks you for taking the risk of coming here, right? Of taking the risk of actually contributing to all of those things, and suspending your disbelief that it will actually convert into return on investment down the line.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But you know what? We've been partnering with them for the last, I would say, 10 years. And it's been every minute that we've spent here has been time well invested.
That's good.
Because you build a relationship with the team, we design with them. Smart Monday was designed using this methodology. Their team members are trained in the methodology and are certified event designers. much like Gonzalo, who also went through our program.
Okay.
He's
Awesome.
almost a certified event designer. There's just a little piece missing, right? Which is the final project that's almost there, right?
Yeah.
But yesterday I told Ruud something that I had inside me is that I used to be an event producer before knowing Ruud and now I am and now I am a designer, not a certified one.
But
Almost
you're
certified.
almost certified. Okay,
ACV.
awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a question for both of you, and then we're going to wrap it up because we've been talking for 40 minutes, which is great. What does a safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experience mean to you?
Well, that's something that we are in the way of making.
Okay.
Sometimes that's something that, for instance, I yesterday we had a talk about how you use food or not use food is how can you use it when you make so much food and they really don't eat it.
Right.
The
Waste.
difference. So, and but in Peru, for instance, we have, besides our normal food, we have Japanese, Peruvian Japanese food.
Yeah.
No, for instance, Nobu, that you know him.
You have Japanese food in Peru.
Oh, it's a big
But
thing.
Peruvian Japanese food.
Peruvian Japanese. Okay.
Do you know Nobu?
Yeah.
Nobu was trained in Peru.
Oh, wow.
That's
It's
why
a very large food influence in the culture.
Wow.
That's why Nobu has in all his the restaurants he has ceviche. He has ceviche and tiradito.
Wow.
Yes. Look, ask Nobu for Peru and he will. We train him.
Okay.
And I know because I'm staying at the Flamingo and I look out on Caesar's Palace and I the Nobu
There's
Hotel.
Nobu,
Nobu
yep.
is right across
Yeah.
the street. Right?
Yes, and what happens with Japanese food that is the fish comes is not good for human
Consumption.
consumption.
Uh-huh.
My English is
Your English is great.
my English is
Much better than my Spanish.
sleep. It's asleep, so it will awake when I am talking. But what happened is with Japanese food, when we made events with Peruvian Japanese restaurants, and you want to talk about sustainability,
Right.
and there, if you don't eat all, you will have to send it to trash.
Right.
It's
And,
very fresh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, because and if you let people take it home,
Right.
it's
It's a liability for the
Right.
restaurateur or the chef.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
that is very complicated because
Yeah.
when you break the coldness of
Right.
so you break it and you
Time and temperature controlled.
yes,
Yes.
and you put it into a refrigerator again,
Right.
that will not help you. But someone in your house maybe think that is fresh
Right.
because it's cool, and that is
Yeah.
very.
Right.
Is that the reason why ceviche actually started? Because it is a sour
acid, yeah.
an acid that's added at an early stage,
the
right?
story of ceviche is very interesting. If we have 2 minutes
Go ahead.
in Lima, Peruvians wouldn't have ceviche at night.
Okay.
If you see someone ask for ceviche at night, it's a tourist.
Really?
Yes, you never have ceviche at night.
So it's a
because
morning thing.
It's a morning, a midday, because you have to have it with fresh fish
Which arrives early in the morning or
Yes.
in the morning.
in the morning.
the
Because
fishermen come back,
yes,
yeah.
when they come, they go at night, they pick it, they catch it, and they will put it into until noon maybe,
Yeah.
because you have that fresh fish
Right.
and lemon.
Yep.
No,
And
and
it's like a reverse marinade. Right?
Yes.
It's
Right, yeah.
Actually, yeah.
but you won't eat it after afternoon, no, at night, never,
Because
because
the fish has already been on the drive for longer than half an hour.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I didn't know
I am never ordering ceviche for dinner ever again.
that. So Gonzalo just taught us a skill, right? Or
Exactly.
knowledge.
Yeah.
yes.
And because and this is where all the instructional design comes together, right? It's about skills, knowledge, people, and attitude. So my attitude towards ceviche is always very open because I love ceviche, right? Now I know, because you told us it's a skill, is that you should not have ceviche, well, at least true Peruvians don't have ceviche after midday.
Yes.
As a result, the people learning, because we got to know each other through this program, as we
Yeah.
got to know each
Yeah.
other through the event camp series, right? People gel together around things they care about. Food is important. You were looking for cookies, yet I have a coffee in front of me. You might not think this is the kind of coffee we were looking for, because like you, coffee has various degrees of taste.
Yep.
But
Yep.
you'll settle for what's available.
Yep.
So sorry for keeping you from your
No,
basic
thank
need
you,
of
man.
cookies.
Okay.
But it was great to be on the
Thank you very much. Let's talk later. Yeah, let's chat later. Getting our photo taken. Okay,
Again, we're
awesome.
live here at IMEX. Tracy, you got to run to your
Well, I
session,
do
right?
need to run to my session, but I want you to answer that last question.
Yeah.
So, what does safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage mean to you?
To me, it's what food and beverage is all about as a basic need for humans.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't get all four of those elements sorted at any time for any event over time, then we're in for a very rough ride.
Right. Yeah.
And I think this is what it means to me. And I think we can design for that to happen. We've got to be super conscious about these elements, but they have to be built into the story, because when they're built into the story, like the story that Gonzalo was telling us about ceviche, you understand the context and the why behind something. If you understand that, you can make it happen. But you've got to make it consciously. You've got to map it out. You've got to spell it out. Just like a movie. You can never make a movie if you don't know what the story is.
Right.
You can't make the trailer before you made the movie, right?
Right.
So, and this is what event design is to us. It's about thinking about the needs of people, expectations, figuring out what the promises of the actual event, how they will spend their time, how that flips into instructional design, how it delivers on the promise. And if you get all of those things right, you can backtrack and see, have we covered all of the bases of the things that you're just mentioning in those four categories?
Awesome.
So it's like bookkeeping or any other process on the planet. If there's no process, you don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
So it needs process.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We are going to close it out here. If you were listening live, appreciate that. I hope you're not listening live because you're actually on the IMEX floor, and that the two of us will run into you at some point in the next 3 days. So I will be live here from IMEX again tomorrow. This is the Eating at a Meeting podcast. And I actually will be live here tomorrow and Thursday afternoon to close the show out. So thanks for coming, and I will talk to you soon. And I'm like missing all my friends just waving at them.
Cheer with the tangerine. 1, 2, 3.
Cheer! Yay! Until next time, stay safe and eat well. Thank you. Bye.